You wake to the faint crackle of reed mats under sandaled feet, the air thick with the sharp, metallic scent of incense, and far away, the low bleating of goats meant for sacrifice. The mud brick walls of your home sweat in the Mesopotamian heat. Though it's still dark, your small hands clutch the wool blanket your mother wove last harvest. You're no more than 12 summers old, skin smooth, eyes wide with innocence, untouched by the world's cruelties. But the men at the door are not kin. They are priests of Marduk, their shaven scalps gleaming in torchlight, their purple robes dyed from crushed sea snails. One, his beard coiled like a scorpion's tail, bends close, breath hot on your ear, whispering in a cadence that promises divine favor. Your mother weeps quietly in the corner, calloused fingers twisting her tunic's hem, knowing she cannot refuse the god's summons. Fear coils in your belly like Euphrates floodwater cold, unstoppable as they lift you from your bed and carry you into the star-streaked streets of Babylon, the ziggurat looming ahead like a giant waiting to swallow you whole. Before we sink deeper into these long-buried stories of survival and suffering, if you find value in uncovering history as hidden truths, hit that like button, subscribe, and share where you're watching from. I am always struck by the thought that we re-exploring these ancient worlds together, from every corner of the earth, bound by our shared curiosity. The night air bites your bare arms as they march you through winding alleys past houses, where oil lamps flicker behind lattice windows, throwing jagged shadows on baked clay walls. You catch the faint murmur of the river, its black water sluggish under the moon, carrying silt to the far fields. Around 1800 BC, under King Hammurabi's rule, Babylon sprawls like a living beast, its heart beating strongest in the temple district where the gods demand their due. Your feet, unused to the rough paving stones, catch on a loose brick. The priest's grip tightens, rings digging into your flesh like the claws of lions from the royal hunts. He does not speak again, but the kohl-rimmed eyes that meet yours hold no kindness, only the unshakable authority of a man, serving powers greater than kings. Here in the ziggurat's shadow, where the temple of Marduk and his consort dominates, the priests rule over both souls and bodies. Hammurabi, born around 1810 BC, crowned in 1790 to BC, inscribed his laws on a towering diorite stele, declaring justice in the name of the gods. But even he bowed to the temple's ancient claims. Clay tablets and the wedge-shaped script of cuneiform preserve rites of purity and sacrifice, of lives given wholly to divine service. You, a boy from a family of weavers near the Ishtar Gate, have been chosen not for strength or wit, but for your untouched state, a male virgin, ripe for the goddess Ishtar's embrace. The air grows heavier with myrrh as you near the temple enclosure. Bronze braziers spit smoke that curls up toward the stars. At the gate, guards bearing copper-tipped spears forged in the temple's own fires nod in silence, feathers from distant dillmen nodding from their helmets. Inside, the courtyard hums even at this hour. Acolytes, boys barely older than you, sweep palm-frond brooms across the flagstones, eyes fixed to the ground. One dares glance up, his gaze hollow, cheeks drawn, but a sharp cough from a senior priest silences him. Here, no one speaks against the god's will. All power flows from the high priest, in Makar, whose family claims to hear Marduk's whispers. His robe drips with gold thread brought from Anatolia's mines, and his word is as binding as the Euphrates current. Your mother's desperate petition to the local scribe had been useless. The omens read in the livers of sacrificial sheep had demanded a new servant for Ishtar. They lead you deep inside, to a chamber painted with frescoes of lions and bulls locked in endless combat, symbols of the goddess's dual nature, love and war. The air reeks of oil and sweat, candlelight flickering against the walls. They strip away your rough flax tunic woven by your father before the last flood took him, leaving you shivering despite the warmth. Scented sesame oil runs over your skin as priests chant words committed to memory, over countless generations, invoking Ishtar, goddess of fertility and battle. Across Mesopotamia, her temples and cities from Uruk to Nineveh keep servants of both sexes. For boys, though, the role carries a darker truth, rituals meant to protect purity through irreversible acts. Excavated clay tablets from places like Nippur and Babylon detail the duties of the Asinu and Kurguru, male devotees, who dressed in women's garments and sang ritual laments. These men were not born into their roles, they were chosen, then remade. It begins with isolation, yours now, locked away with only a straw mat and a jug of tamarisk-flavored water to purify the blood. Days pass in silence, broken only by the high, haunting chants of the gala priests, seeping through the walls like river mist. Hunger gnaws at you, weakening resistance. Visions come in the dim light, your mother's grief-warped face, the fields where you once chased fireflies, On the third night, in Makar comes. Amulets of lapis lazuli clink on his chest as he sits before you, eyes searching for defiance. The goddess needs vessels free of mortal taint, he says, voice smooth as polished stone. You want to cry out, beg, but fear holds you still. Refusal would mean not only your death, but ruin for your family. Temple law would seize their land. Here, even Hammurabi himself, though dead since 1750 BC, had honored the temple's rites. In Makar speaks without cruelty, but with the conviction of faith. The act attested in medical texts of the era and hinted at in epics like the descent of Inanna's castration, a severing meant to preserve virginity and bind you forever to service. Bronze knives, sharpened on wet stones. Herbal poultices to slow the bleeding, these are listed in temple inventories. At dawn, with sunlight gilding the ziggurats summit, they bind you to a wooden altar worn smooth by countless bodies, dark stained with old blood. The tang of vinegar used to clean the blades fills the air. Hymns to Ishtar rise as pain bursts through you like a storm breaking over the Tigris. Ropes of date palm fiber bite into your wrists. Shulia Hill, the surgeon, works quickly, his brow furrowed, whispering apologies too soft for others to hear. Blood pools on stone. Attendants press myrrh-soaked cloth to the wound, the scent choking in its sweetness. Weeks pass in a dim infirmary. Fever blurs waking and dreams. You hear others groaning, boys from Kish, from Euphrates villages. One, Belshanu, whispers of home and swaying date palms, clutching at his bandages. Priests tend to the wounds with garlic and honey salves, efficient but detached. The deeper scars are inside. Confusion churns in you, a storm of why, but questions risk divine wrath. Statues of Marduk glare from the main hall with eyes of shell and gold. When healed, you dress in fine linen skirts dyed indigo by Phoenician hands. You learn the Kurgaru dances, stamping feet to goatskin drums. Your altered voice joins the gala choir, lamenting Tammuz, Ishtar's dying consort. The festivals bring silver and grain to temple coffers, but beneath the ritual lies coercion. Better rations and softer beds go to those in favor. Disfavor sends you to cold, wine-scoured courts. Records tell of a boy named Marduk, dedicated at 11 during Hammurabi's reign. His family paid in barley and wool. He rose to fame as a singer, but tablets mark him as restless of spirit. In the gardens, he'd trace patterns in dust, dreaming of escape that would never come. Guards watched the walls, river gates locked at dusk. His grief went into song, chilling listeners with sorrow. Babylon's golden age spread such rites across its empire. In Mari, round 1760 BC, King Zimri-Lim sent young boys as temple tribute. Letters between kings record caravans carrying trembling children. Once here, they met the same fate given to Ishtar in rites of relentless trial and devotion. Fear, grief, and confusion carved themselves deep. A boy might pause at the ritual chamber's threshold, breath catching before stepping inside. Knights brought muffled sobs into cloaks. Priests whispered of divine punishments, plagues, floods, rivers running red to silence doubt. Even some priests faltered. Private scrolls in coded language speak of the weight of purity. They knew these rites kept the temple powerful. Kings sought their omens before war. A boy favored by a priest might learn the lyre, its gut strings plucked as a small mercy. But the cycle continued. You, now transformed, help prepare the next trembling child, a potter's son from the south. Survival has made you part of what once destroyed you. In the spring Akitu festival of 1750 BC, Hammurabi himself rides past in his chariot over palm-strewn streets. You perform, body painted in ochre, incense stinging your eyes. The crowds cheer, swallowing your silent scream. After Hammurabi's death, his son Samsi-Luna faced rebellions, and the temple demanded more dedications. Captured boys from conquered Larsa were spared the sword only to face the knife. One, Kiram of the Sion tribes, became a servant of Nabu after his rite in 1720 BC. Babylon's sensory world presses close the cool brush of silk veils on scarred skin, the crackle of sacrificial fires, the taste of coriander beer in shared cups. Winter breath smokes in dawn air, summer heat cracks clay like old leather. Temple politics or dangerous accusations of heresy can mean burial alive beneath new foundations. Boys form silent bonds, a glance or nod carrying comfort. Some eunuchs write later of feeling neither man nor woman, their reflections in polished copper foreign and unsettling. By the Kassite dynasty after 1595 BC, the rites had changed but endured. One 1400 BC tablet records the dedication of 20 boys, their cries like jackals in the marshes. In 1300 BC, priest Ad-Shum-Us laments the death of a favored boy, his light dimmed like the evening star. leaving shadows in my heart. Centuries later, Nebuchadnezzar to rebuild Babylon's ziggurat to 91 meters. During his siege of Jerusalem, young Judeans were among the captives dedicated to the gods. Rites grew more elaborate. Harps with horsehair strings played to drown out screams. Opium-laced wine to subdue resistance. Some eunuchs rose to influence, like Mushalam Marduk in 550 BC, torn between power and regret. Even after Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon in 539 BC, he allowed the rites to continue, and so the shadow never lifted. In firelit courtyards, under the weight of incense and chant, the same cycle turned. Innocence severed, flesh remade for forgotten gods. The whispers ride the Euphrates wind still, from the bed of a boy long ago, into eternity.